Hello, my name is Aaron Rapp, and today I'll be discussing a brief history of solfege. Solfege is a system of assigning various syllables to pitches in a Western scale to facilitate sight singing. For example, a major scale would be do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. The solfege system may have been immortalized by Julie Andrews singing Do, a deer, a female deer, but the history of solfege goes far beyond a simple Rodgers and Hammerstein song. Imagine you're standing in a European monastery around the year 1000 AD. What sort of music would you expect to hear? How about Gregorian chant, which are simple modal monophonic melodies that are built around the hexachord, which is the precursor to the Western scale that we all know and love. It sounded something like this. Do 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 do. This Gregorian chant is named after Pope Gregory I, who first ordered music notation be simplified and standardized among all the Catholic monasteries. One of the things this permitted was the sharing of hymns and chants between different convents and monasteries, etc. Unfortunately, one of the new difficulties that arose with this system was that many monks were barely literate, and by looking at sheet music, they couldn't learn the chant quickly or remember it accurately. So they're not very different than modern singers today. Thankfully, Guido de Arezzo came to the rescue. He was an Italian monk from the province of Arezzo, and he noticed that while he was teaching, one of the hymns titled Ut Queant Laxis, it's a hymn in honor of John the Baptist, began with 6 phrases, each one starting on a different note of the hexatonic scale. He decided to name each note after the pitch that started on that, or after the phrase that started on that note. Ut Queant Laxis goes, Ut queant laxis resonare fibris miragestorum famuli tuorum sove polluti labireatum sancte Johannes. And that gave us solfege in the original form. Ut, re, mi, fa, sol, and la. As time passed, music changed, and so did solfege. We moved from ut to do to make it easier to sing and distinguish with the hard D at the beginning. Also, music began to incorporate the subtonic, or the 7th degree of the scale. The letter that was assigned was C to stand for Sancte Johannes from the original piece. In English-speaking countries, that was changed to T to make each pitch start with a different letter of the alphabet. Many Romance countries, as well as Asian countries, don't use T, but instead continue using C. The next step for solfege was to adapt to accidentals by adding other syllables to represent the half steps between the notes of a major scale. So that brings us to our chromatic solfege scale, which would be do, di, re, re, mi, fa, fi, sol, si, la, li, ti, do, do, di, te, la, le, sol, se, fa, mi, me, re, ra, do. And up to this point, solfege was fixed. C was always do, C sharp was always D, F was always fa, and so on. However, if you're singing the key of like E major, that's not going to help you much. You're going to have like a scale that goes mi, fi, si, la, ti, di, re, mi, and so that wasn't particularly useful. So someone invented movable do. So whatever the tonic of the key you're singing in, that pitch would become do. So now, if you're singing in E major, E is do, and so on and so forth. Movable do is the norm in the United States and most English-speaking countries, but there's many other countries, especially using Romance languages that continue using fixed do. And after 1,000 years, it would be easy to think that solfege has become stagnant or fixed. But on the contrary, it's still evolving to keep up with the music of our time. For example, Dr. Paul Wiens has just proposed switching re and ra in the solfege in what he calls new solfege. And the upside to this is that all the flatted notes are now re, me, se, and le, and te in it for consistency instead of having ra there. I'm not sure if this will catch on in a national scale or anything, but one thing is sure: as long as there are singers, solfege will live on.